Well, good afternoon or good evening if you're in a different time zone. I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirt, as I'm known here, and my method is simpler, faster, better. And I have an organization called Process Cleanup, and I help people clean up their processes. And welcome, Wendy. I forgot to ask you where we were located today. So Wendy's my guest, and we're going to talk about a number of things. And our shared passion around independent eye care for sure. So Wendy, where are you?
Welcome. Thank you. I am in Toronto, Canada.
That's right. Toronto, Canada. So yes, I was a little late getting to our pre-prep discussion. So, so I should have asked you that anyway. So if you are on here listening in, just let us know, because unless you comment in the comments, we don't know you're there. So just say hi. Don't be shy, say hi, right? And then the other thing that I like to do, particularly, and I'm sure Wendy and many of us are the same, we get bombarded by all sorts of things here on LinkedIn because it is a busy, forward-thinking platform. And so I like to run the context. So, you know, how did Wendy become a guest, right? How did I ask Wendy to become a guest? And I'm a process guy, so I have a process for most things. And I certainly do in terms of getting my live stream guests lined up. So I like to cover the 4 C's, if you can let me cover that, Wendy, because I'm pretty certain you feel the same way. So what I call the 4 C's on LinkedIn is how you become a LinkedIn live guest. And it starts with a conversation. And those conversations often happen in cross-posting or cross-interest. So I know that I saw Wendy cross-converting or cross-conversations with many, as it turns out, shared common connections that we know now in the eye care world. And so those conversations, and then they lead to a connection. So after some conversations, you know, I reached out and asked Wendy if I could connect with her, and she said yes. And then through those connections, I continued to watch what she's posting about and some of the things that she is conversing about. So that connection starts to lead to, you know, building a community. And the community in this case, and the one I'm very passionate about through having a special rare eye condition, is independent eye care practitioners or independent eye care service providers. So that's kind of the community. And then from that community, you end up reaching out to collaborate. So I will ask Wendy, hey, would you like to be a guest on my show? So that's the first step in our collaboration. And so those 4 C's are key. And the reason that I mention it is a lot of people say, well, LinkedIn doesn't work. And I'll say, well, what have you been doing? And if you skip one of those 4 C's, that's why it doesn't work. So what are your thoughts on that before we jump into your specialty area?
I love what you're saying. And it comes back to, I work with what's called the SPEC methodology.
Yeah.
Which, before you can connect, which is the C in that acronym, is first you've kind of got, like, how do you see yourself? Who are you? What do you stand for? How do you visually show up? What's that energy like? And then the P is, once you've got how you see yourself very clearly figured out, then you take your eyes off yourself and you can really help patients or clients with how they want to be perceived, so that all of the energy is now on them. And then you can move into engagement with questions or outreach like you did.
Yeah.
And then you can connect, and then you can close and do business or whatever your intentions are. But so many people want to go right to connect. I want to go right to connect. I want to pitch. It's like about building that relationship, but then starting out with being very clear on who you are, what you represent, how you serve, and then go into that. So I loved what you were saying. It was like, wow, this is kind of flowing into the SPEC methodology, and we hadn't even talked before. So this is great.
Well, yeah. So the cool thing, well, and the spec then leads to, or the S in the spec then leads to, you know, being very specific or very strategic in my case. And in fact, last week's guest, Genesis. She's a very young up and coming leader. And she talked about being very specific, intentional, and strategic around what sort of community is she building. And number one, that was refreshing. And number two, what a great learning opportunity. I mean, she's in completely different age space to me, but her wise beyond her years for sure. And it was just a great reminder about, be specific, be intentional, be strategic. And yeah, I'm actually Phil Davis, a longtime connection of mine and prior live stream guest. I know Phil, he's on in the comments. So thank you, Phil. And yes, and Phil is another great example of, how do you build a company around, those expectations and the kind of cool things that he does. So yes, and that's, that's also how you create a unique brand, right? Because, in your case, everyone's spec, or in my case, everyone 4C is a little different based on their own personality, which could be the P in spec. And also, what type of community they want to build, or do they not want to build a community? And that's okay. But, I like building specific communities, and I only collaborate inside those communities. So
yeah. And I think, with us supporting independent eye care too, that they're building communities within their community. Absolutely. And who they are being is who they are attracting. And I think that's important too, that you're clear and specific on that message, and then you get the right clientele coming in so that you can serve at the highest level as well. Yeah. And it's exciting when you build that, and then you look at who your clients are. Like I do have a retail business as well. And when I look at the clients that I attract, I'm attracting people that I love to work with every single day. Yeah. And that makes our work a lot of fun too, that you're kind of you're resonating at the same energy level, the value systems are there. And I think it makes our day-to-day easy and fun and authentic and real. And we're building that community and connections.
Yeah. And actually it's funny, you should say that, because, it was late last year, and one of my, what I call biz besties, is a lady called 𝐿 Marie, and I always do what I call a branding tune-up with her. So we spend time stepping back, out of the day-to-day and looking at, what is the brand doing. And in my case, it's the guy in the blue shirt is my kind of funny brand. But she said to me at one point, last quarter last year, she said, imagine, Bruce, wouldn't it be so cool if you could only work with your biz besties? Imagine what that would be like. And that captured my imagination, number one. And number two, it talks to exactly what you said. Why work with people that you don't resonate with? Why work with people where their energy is totally opposite to yours? Or why work with people that are negative, energy vampires? It's so, yeah. So, but it's being confident about being specific as well, and strategic, right? And in fact, I had a conversation actually with a customer's client earlier today that, they were doubting the fact that, one could be action orientated around that. And it's like, because that's what makes the difference, right? Everyone can talk, everyone can promise, but, the reality is when the rubber hits the road, as I call it, turning the talk into action items, right? So that's the key thing. So
yeah, and I think when you're on brand and you've been strategic and you've thought about that and figured out how you do see yourself, that authenticity really individualizes you and it humanizes you. And so now the relationships become easier to build. Yeah. And what I teach is, with spec is about spec style, that when we as optical professionals and optical stylists put ourselves together and we show up in our authentic style, whatever that is, in glasses that match, in colors and clothing style that really suit you, people are just naturally attracted to that. And it builds instant credibility, instant trust just on that visual. I'm an image consultant as well. And we always used to talk about, you have 30 seconds to make a good first impression. And I argue now that we literally have 6 seconds with social media and LinkedIn and videos. People are forming opinions of us that quickly. So that visual representation is even more powerful, more impactful than it ever used to be too.
Yeah.
Our brand.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I talk a lot when I do my process improvements. You know, my goals for what simpler, faster, better is, they're tangible, which is if it's an electronic or some type of software, you know, can you get to and do the things that you need to do in 3 clicks or less, right? So that's pretty demanding. Or in a physical environment, you know, can you represent or build that rapport or find and do whatever you need to do in 30 seconds or less? And I don't mean complete the task. I mean where to start, right? And I don't know about you, but, you know, every now and then I have to do my own process cleanups because I get stuff discombobulated behind the scenes and blah, blah, blah. So I'm forever tidying up my filing system, particularly electronically, so I can get to all the stuff I need in 3 clicks or less and not waste time, not spending time, you know, with customers or clients. So, yeah, so being able to demonstrate that authenticity is also, you know, to me, the more sophisticated application of does a brand work or not. And so my funny examples are when I go out networking in person, a lot of people don't call me by name. They either say, "Hey B," or my nickname is BB, or they'll say, "Hey, blue shirt guy."
Yeah. Well, there's a comment from Phil. Phil, love the blue shirt, love the blue glasses. So I did give that thought when that was your brand, that I'm going to show up with blue glasses. Like, it's that giving some thought to what you're doing and then making it happen and making it that visual expression. So thanks, Phil, for noticing that.
Well,
good eye.
Yeah, good. Well, even more importantly, the post that you did that made me reach out to you to say, "Hey, would you like to be a guest?" is the one where you're in blue. So it was, and I can't remember the exact context, but it's like, wow, you know, Wendy really knows how to use the blue color. So that's back to that community, right? It might be so silly as that we love to use and wear blue because it makes us feel confident and together.
Yeah. And just color. Just color alone. And I always, I'm talking about eyewear, move out of the tortoiseshell and the black frames and put on color, because if you are an optical professional, an eye care professional, let's show up as one with eyeglasses on. If that's what we sell, let's wear them, whether we need them visually or not. They are fashion as much as they are function now. And being able to give that visual, again, it comes back to what's that visual? It's, if I'm wearing glasses in color, then there's credibility when I show you glasses in color that are your color palette. If it's blue, what color of blue is it? Or what tonal color palette are you wearing? And color is so impactful and powerful in the eyewear styling consultation too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so amazing because, being very aware of that and always being the product of your own process, people miss that gem. And I'll, like, Phil is a great example. I know his brand color is the paprika orange, and Phil is and his fulfillment and all of the cool stuff he does. He's somehow in So when I see orange, I immediately think of Phil. And then Yolanda's just joined us. You know, Yolanda, her brand is being very very empathetic. So, you know, I've met Yolanda a couple of times in person in Dallas, Texas area. But I know as soon as that Yolanda's commenting, she's going to come at it from a very empathetic point of view. And those things stick with you. So, you know, orange, I remember Phil and fulfillment. That's his approach. So yes, color is super important. And you know, also negative things that happen through color, right? so
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think as eye care professionals, we as people are the brand too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're the brand of our expertise, the brand of the clinic, the brand of the company. And if you are that eye care professional that's out front and center, it better look like what you promote on Instagram or what you promote on LinkedIn when they walk in, because I have had that experience where on Instagram, it looks like this grandiose, high boutique type of clinic. And I walk in and the experience, the interaction is not at that. And so then there's an immediate disconnect. And then I think clients don't even know that why they aren't trusting. They're like, okay, there's a disconnect. I don't know what it is, but this doesn't look like what I thought it was in the way that it was portrayed in whatever advertising platform that was. And I've had it happen to me when I've gone into hairdressers, when I've gone into clothing boutiques, and I'm like, wow, I just drove 45 minutes out of my way to come here to be greeted with, like, do you have an appointment? It's 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock. I'm walking in the door at 2 minutes to 1. Chances are, yes, I have an appointment. You know, could you have looked at the thing and said, oh, are you Wendy for the 1 o'clock appointment with Joanne?
Right.
And then that's personal, right? So it's making sure there's consistency to back up the authentic look that you're portraying out there too.
Right. And it's funny because that disconnection actually leads to disappointment as an emotion, but sometimes we don't connect the two things together, right? We know we feel off, but usually it's disappointment because, you know, you have particularly if it's a new place with a new set of people, you know, you kind of form this imaginary how it's going to go, or I do anyway. So
well, our branding is giving them those clues too,
right?
If we're doing our marketing and branding right, we're giving them those clues. So then we have to be sure we're backing it up with credible expertise and that we're visually presenting ourselves and our clinics. How we communicated that the service was going to be that level of service.
Right. Yeah. And thanks, Phil. Great comment there. Yes. But the other thing I would say, particularly for the independent eye care practitioner, you know, your job right off the get-go is to promote confidence, right? And there are some great examples of shared common connections, right? You know, Dr. Christy Nguyen, right? What a great example. She promotes confidence through her ability to connect with people all sorts of levels. So you know, when I went to see Dr. Christy, I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that it was going to be a great experience, and it was. You know, same with Charlene Nichols, that you know, same with Dr. Irina Yakovin. You know, they create a confidence level that you expect.
Yeah. Well, and I love Yolanda made a great comment too, that the optometrist that she goes to doesn't wear glasses and always discourages her from choosing glasses with bright colors. So this is where you have to really understand who you are, but then have a very strong awareness of others and ask enough curious questions to find out who they are, so you're not imposing your style on them.
Yeah.
And that sounds like that might be exactly what happened. That optometrist doesn't wear glasses, definitely won't wear bright glasses because they don't want to stand out. That's great and cool and authentic. It's who they are. But that doesn't mean that everyone they work with all day long is the exact same style as them. And the spec styles that I share show people how to eliminate judgment and bias, and how to get really clear on who other people are. And if you don't know who they are, what are the questions we can ask so they can tell us and show us who they are? So great example. Thank you for that, Yolanda. I really appreciate it because it makes you spark ideas too. And it's that communication and conversation that helps us share more information too.
Well, the other real value issue there is what a disconnect between the product of your own process. that particular eye care professional is not the product of their process, even if they don't want to appear that way, even if they're uncomfortable appearing that way. To me, that would be a big confidence ask on my part. It'd be like, well, I'm not sure if this is the best eye professional for me.
Well, and you know what, Bruce, that translates into the numbers and the analytics too. So if they don't like bright glasses or bold glasses, like some people might not like what I'm wearing because it's very bold and dramatic and they don't want to show up like that. Well, if they aren't catering to that clientele in their optical dispensary, they're walking out. And there's two spec styles that are the two biggest spenders who want to buy a lot of eyeglasses. And they're often the ones that I see that are missed on the frame boards.
Right.
And then I say, okay, is your capture rate around 60%? He said, yeah, it's pretty good, eh? And I said, yeah, but you're totally missing the 40% because they've walked in, scanned the boards, saw someone out front selling glasses wearing scrubs, and they've already said they don't know my fashion, my style. I'm going to have to run right after my eye exam, and I'm going to have to pick up the kids, or I've got an appointment, or they're already formulating their exit plan because of that visual 6 seconds, like literally 6 seconds. They've scanned and went, yep, this isn't the place for me to buy my glasses.
Yeah. So, well, and it's also, I'm big around trying to help from a layman's point of view. I'm not an eye care professional. I've been to a lot of eye appointments, though, in lots of different facilities. And the thing I try and get, particularly independent eye care, to think about is, can you make the experience client or customer patient focus, not administration, insurance driven focus, right? And when you do that, when you think about how should I be flowing the patient through my practice, it can make a huge difference. Many times in many operations, the actual what I call in-person or touch time with the people in person is 10 to 15 minutes maximum, and yet I'm there almost 2 hours. So they've got all this waiting time or non-productive time, then they just shuffle you between spaces, and it's like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I'm a process guy, so
when you can give someone undivided attention, and it might be as little as 60 seconds,
right,
they feel appreciated, they feel valued, they feel heard and understood. And it's literally 60 seconds. And I've been in social environments and I'm always like, whoever you're talking to, focus, minimum of 60 seconds, listen intently, understand, take it in. And then, if you have to move on, you can, but give them that little bit of time. And it's because it's so impactful and powerful. And you don't know the difference that you can make for that person in a very short amount of time. And that's the human element, bring that human element in, that it's not just get them in, get them out.
Yeah.
Because they could go online. They can go online and get depersonalized service. We have such an opportunity to stand out and be of service and really engage with our clients.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mean, this is my store in the Omniverse City. There's me as an avatar.
I see it.
So, even in the Omniverse City, Charlie Nichols and all the team there that are helping use a combination of people, process, and technology. You can go there and you can get, as long as you don't have weird vision issues like me, you can get AI assisted, eye exam, pick one of 1,000 frames and have them delivered to your door. So the technology and processes are there. And some people want to do it that way, and that's okay. That's the beauty of the independence of choice. But ideally, something that's significant in terms of making you see the best or look the best, it should be a high touch, high personal environment, which is nice to be in, right? Not
well, and it's how they feel. Again, that comes back to that emotional. How are you making them feel in the styling consultation? How do they feel when they walk out with the glasses? How do they feel about that interaction? It all comes down to a feeling. And if we can create that feeling in whatever environment, then we excel.
Yeah.
Because it's not common out there anymore. And it takes so little to go from ordinary to extraordinary.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of conscious effort, a system. Even with styling, there's a system, there's a process that I take people through so that they are hitting that mark when they're styling and creating that experience, like you talked about, that experience for their clients, so that they do go out there and they talk about you and they have conversations about you, and then they connect you to the other like-minded people in the community that will be your ideal clients too.
Yep, absolutely. And you build that following, and there's nothing stronger than a word of mouth or a written recommendation, right? Or both.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, great processes. I love your acronym. I didn't do enough research to actually look at what it meant, but now it makes a whole lot more sense. So
well, and the SPEC methodology allows you to be spectacular, which is the Be Spectacular Eyewear styling system. So it's all on brand.
Very clever, very cleverly done. So what do you have coming up in the next quarter or so? Anything exciting on Wendy's radar?
Yes, yeah, I'm doing a lot of collaborations, speaking for optometry groups, speaking for optical groups, sharing the processes in the system. I do a lot of personal business with independent optometrists too, where I'm working hands-on with their teams, which is really exciting. A few more TV gigs happening because the TV, I do a lot of styling tips and trend tips, but TV is a great way to not only educate eye care professionals, but consumers, so that consumers know about independent eyewear and they know what's happening in that world with all of our cool designers that we have access to. So I think it's a great platform to get to the masses and really educate them on what's available in eye care now too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so are all those gigs in person in Canada, or do you come to the US?
Yeah, Canada and the US. I'm probably in the US a little more even than I am in Canada, which is exciting. And got a couple of really cool collaborations coming up in the US that this material can get out to a lot more people and make an impact. I think make an impact not just with eye care professionals, but with the consumers. So more people look good, love their eyewear, feel confident, get that service that they deserve at whatever price point that is, and really make a difference. And if you know Simon Sinek, I love Simon Sinek. I love that Get to Why. and before I started going out to the industry, working with my peers, it was like, get to why. And my why is if we can educate consumers, but educate eye care professionals to be amazing stylists, everybody wins. The independent frame companies win, the lens companies win, the consumers win. So the whole industry becomes better when we get better at styling and selling or dispensing eyewear too.
Yeah, very. So if you want, you can drop the locations and cities you're going to go to next quarter in the comments. You can do that on the replay, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Yes, and Yolanda says she loves your branding, so you know.
Oh, thank you, Yolanda. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good find. And your primary platform is here, or how do you want people to reach out to get to know you better?
Yeah, LinkedIn is Wendy Buchanan. And then Instagram, I share a lot on Instagram as well, which does get repurposed onto LinkedIn. But Instagram is Be Spectacular Training.
Okay. Yeah, so feel free to drop those references in the comments as well.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Phil says wonderful time. Yeah, and we are scheduled to chat. Phil and I have been long overdue for a catch up, so we're going to.
I'll look forward to that conversation too.
That one won't be live. Sometimes he records. We do them on Zoom, but yeah, he's been through a lot of different growth and changes, and me too, and yeah, all good stuff. So yeah, support Wendy, support me. So I want to do a couple of outtakes. So talking about community, the context of this is whenever I travel to other states, I always look up who at least my level 1 connections are in those states. And when I went to Portland, Oregon last time, I was actually there for an IndyCar race, which is what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to IndyCars. Super fan. And also I'm a volunteer sometimes at some of the events that IndyCar put on. So very, very passionate about that. Anyway, when I was in Portland, Oregon, I knew Russ Hedge, who's in Salem. So I definitely got to meet with him. But Devin James, who I'd worked with on and off on some minor projects around telling a brand story. Devin lives in Portland, and we got to go and have a lunch on a seasonal, what they called the deck. So it's literally a deck floating in the Columbia River where they have food and a bar, and it's only in there between April and September. So the cool thing about that, I found this location. Devin had never been there, and we thought, oh, we'd meet for an hour or so. Well, we ended up floating around on the deck for about 4 hours. So that was great. So through that, Devin actually created a brand story for me. So I wanted to give him a shout out. So let me find that. Sometimes it don't work. Sometimes it does. But here we go. So see if you think this is on brand.
You're frustrated that you have no time and you just hate it. You lost your mind. You're running around the kids and the spouse, and the business that was once your passion has got you burnt out. So, consult with Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. He'll help you find the truth so that you can do you first. See, it's all about simpler, faster, better, so you can save massive amounts of time and money instead of longing for the day where you can finally kick your feet up. Oh, do yourself a favor. Call up Bruce. He'll tell you about process cleanup.
Love it.
Yeah.
But kudos to Devin. That was awesome.
Yeah, I call him the brand story maestro because he uses a combination of verbal, music, and visuals. He's a maestro.
I love it. I love it. Was like engaging, like you're watching the graphics, but you're listening to him his poem and the like a vibe. It's like you almost want to get up and move a little bit. It was great, great energy, positive. I loved it.
All right.
Big shout out.
Yeah, big shout out. All right. So because you and I both know Charlene Nichols pretty well, so I did something a little different with Devin's help. So this is early on when Charlene and I were collaborating to build, my place in the Omniverse City. So see what you think about this. We ended up creating 3 spaces which people are going to be able to see, and we ended up with spaces called Connect and Shop and Play.
You don't want to miss out, that's all I'm gonna say. The right place, the right time, the right tech. In the Omniverse is where I place my bet.
Connect and shop and play.
Imagine having Google stocks back in the day when you got up on the ground floor. Pennies to the dollar, this is opportunity calling, so you better yell holla.
Just for fun.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Kudos to you two. I think you're a great creative team together.
Actually, I did very little. Yeah, Devin and Charlene did a lot of it, but anyway, so yeah. So yeah, my next I asked you about your quarter 2 for me is I'm really going to be building out the community here, so people are going to be able to join complimentary to come into the Omniverse City, and actually a subset of that community, I'm actually going to be building like a special community for all my past live stream guests. So I'd love to have you as part of that, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. See if we can come up with a rap song for Be Spectacular training.
It wouldn't take much, I can assure you. And yeah, I'm more than happy to introduce you to Devin if that helps. He is a very clever artistic guy. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I might need his help because I'm putting together a really cool new online dynamic training program that introduces them to the 5 spec styles, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be engaging. So I might need Devin to infuse that. Maybe he can come up with a song for me.
Oh yeah, he's really good at he's done some. So Raquel Barris had her brand story, Dr. Nupi Aurora had her brand story. A couple other people. Yeah, and the cool thing, a lot of artistic type projects like that take a lot of work offline. I mean, the first one I had 2 variations and it was done. And on the last one, we just did one small edit and it was done. So he's very capable of absorbing a lot of information and turning it into the message that you want. So,
okay, I need to talk to Devin because I know what I'm doing. I think I could. I love the fun, and I think bringing that into training is so important too. That it's fun and they're like, okay, I want to do this. Like, and for me, it's like styling eyeglasses is my passion, my love. I live and breathe this. But teaching optical and not just eye care professionals now, but starting to attract new people to our industry who are interested in fashion and style. And yes, they can learn the optics as well, but we are a fashion industry as much as we are a medical industry. And I think that's my message, is that how do we then combine, like seamlessly move from the function medical to the styling fashion conversations that, I might be going out on a limb, are more compelling and exciting for people.
I agree. It's where does function and fashion, make a compelling story.
Yeah, exactly. A story that they can tell their friends.
Yeah, and be proud of.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, thank you, Bruce. What an awesome
conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will introduce you to Devin. Just hang on for a minute or so. Thanks for all the comments. We will go back and reply. it'll be tonight for me because I have a customer engagement to do here right now.
Okay.
And yeah, thanks. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.